All right, today we're going to do something a little different. We're taking a simple story and breaking it down into a powerful framework, a real case study for how you can build a dream from, well, literally nothing. This isn't just about feeling inspired, it's about getting a practical roadmap. You know that feeling, right? You've got this huge, amazing dream in your head, but you have absolutely no idea where to even start. It feels like this giant chasm between where you are and where you want to be. Well, that's exactly where our story kicks off today, with a young guy named Leo. And here's the perfect picture of his problem. On one side, you've got his reality, a struggling family, small town, zero cash. And on the other side, the dream, a whole chain of restaurants, financial freedom, the whole shebang. So the big question for any entrepreneur, for anyone with a dream, is this: how in the world do you bridge a gap that wide? Okay, so that brings us to the first and, let's be honest, probably the biggest hurdle for most people, having a massive dream with a completely empty bank account. And this quote from his father, this becomes his guiding star. It totally reframes the problem. See, it shifts his thinking from I can't do anything because I have no money to, okay, what can I do right now with the little I do have? It's a game changer. So check out his first move. And this is so important. He didn't go asking for a handout. Nope. He found a real need in his town. People wanted fresh bread. Then he went to the supplier and pitched him a business deal. With zero money to his name, the only thing he had to offer was his word. His promise was his only capital. And he came through. He sold every single loaf, paid the man back, and proved his word was rock solid. By doing that, he didn't just make a tiny bit of cash. No, he turned his hard work into something way more valuable: trust. And that trust, that became the currency he was going to use for his next big step. But Leo pretty quickly figured out that just being the middleman wasn't going to get him to his big dream. There's a limit to that. If he really wanted to build something big, he had to go from just selling the product to making the product. Let's call this the growth hurdle. It's that moment every business, every project eventually hits. You hit a ceiling. What you're doing now just can't take you any higher. The only way forward is to level up, to learn new skills, and to adapt. So how did he get over this hurdle? Well, he went straight back to Mr. Anderson. But this time, he wasn't asking for more bread to sell. He was asking for something way more valuable: knowledge. He was basically cashing in all that trust he'd built. He made it clear he wasn't trying to become a competitor, he wanted to be a partner. But let me tell you, learning to bake was not some romantic montage. It was brutal. His hands ached constantly from kneading the dough. And the bread? His first attempts were just terrible. Batch after batch was a complete failure, just one disaster after another. He got to that point, that wall of doubt we all hit, where giving up honestly feels like the smartest thing to do. But he didn't quit. He just kept going. He pushed through all that failure and frustration, and after 2 solid weeks of just relentless practice, he finally got it. Mr. Anderson himself said his bread was perfect. And that right there proves a huge point. Mastery isn't something you're born with. It's something you forge through pure, stubborn grit. Okay, so just as he's finally getting somewhere, a brand new challenge pops up. It's a classic story, right? Success always attracts competition. And pretty soon, Leo wasn't the only baker in town anymore. And we're talking a new, fancy bakery run by some guy named Eric. And you can see right here on the chart, the impact was immediate and devastating. His sales just nosedived. I mean, this is the kind of thing that could have completely wiped him out. But did Leo panic? No, he got strategic. He didn't try to get into a price war he couldn't win. Instead, he decided to compete on value. He actually started listening to his customers. He spruced up his shop, he learned new skills like cake decorating. He innovated his way right out of that crisis. So he survived the competition. You'd think he'd earned a break, right? Wrong. His next test was something you can't plan for: a random disaster that threatened to destroy everything he'd built. A fire. A fire in the bakery. Most of his equipment just gone. It's that nightmare scenario, right? Years of your life's work just literally going up in smoke. It's enough to make anyone feel completely powerless. But just listen to how he responded. That is not the voice of a victim. That's the voice of a battle-tested entrepreneur. See, all those other struggles, starting with nothing, failing at baking, fighting off competition, they weren't for nothing. They forged this incredible resilience in him. He didn't see a tragedy. He saw just another problem that needed solving. And this is where it all comes full circle. Because he didn't just sit there waiting for someone to save him, and because he'd spent years building a reputation for being a hard worker with integrity, the community stepped up. They rallied around him. And that's a key lesson. People want to help someone who is already fighting to help themselves. So after all that, what can we really take away from Leo's journey? Well, it all boils down to 4 super clear, actionable rules for success. First, dreams aren't free. You pay for them with hard work and sacrifice. Second, failure is not the end. It's just a chance to learn and get stronger. Third, you have to help yourself first. When you do that, others will want to support you. And finally, number 4, never, ever give up, especially when things look their worst. And look, these aren't just feel-good quotes. This is the literal step-by-step framework Leo used to build his dream. You see, in the end, the bakery was just the result. What he really built was a life of purpose, a life filled with respect and pride, not because of what he owned, but because of who he became in the process. So that leaves us with one final thought. Leo built his dream by taking on one challenge at a time. His story proves that any big dream is really just a bunch of smaller challenges lined up. So the real question for you is, which challenge are you going to face first?